What's nice is that we get a chance to kind of communicate about some of what we're seeing as we read through it and some of what we're learning. And it's been fun for me to kind of, keep track of those who are more expressive and then, get those surprise pop-ups every now and then. It's like, oh, wow, that person added something. That's really cool. You see somebody who adds into it. And then some of you are sly. You don't comment. You just highlight. All right, and I get to see your highlights, and it's really cool to see so many of you working through the book of Proverbs and beginning to process through some things. Now, probably the most common comment that I'm seeing as people are working through the book of Proverbs is the need to be quiet. Would anybody agree with me? It's like, as you're reading through it, you're kind of like going, yeah, this sense in which, wisdom is often found in silence, and restraints is a very important thing. And a lot of people have commented on that and have lifted that up. And I just found that very intriguing and interesting as I'm kind of working through it. And I'm sitting there thinking, I have to talk about Proverbs. And everybody's going, maybe we should just be quiet with the Proverbs. And the beauty of the Proverbs is that they just, in many ways, speak for themselves. They just kind of lay it out there, and you're just like, yeah, I'm going to chew on that for a while. I'm not really sure that I like it. Not really sure that I want to follow it. Not really sure that but it's true. Some of the things we can agree with them or disagree with them, but they are accurate statements. They are true reflections about different things. And so, some of the things that Proverbs talks about is it talks about, a parent's relationship with his child. Actually, the book of Proverbs is filled with a father giving advice to his son. Giving, hey, pay attention here, look out for this. So there's a lot of that. But there's also the sense in which, a father, and a mother are encouraged to discipline their kid, which is discipline is different than punishment. Okay? That's very important for us to understand. I think here in the United States, we've misunderstood those two concepts and we've equated them all the time. And they're not necessarily the same thing. Sometimes discipline involves punishment. But sometimes we punish and we don't discipline. Sometimes as parents, we just lose our cool. And we punish the kid because we're upset. Or we punish the kid because we had a bad day. And that is not what the Proverbs writer is talking about. Discipline requires the ability to look ahead. It's moving in a certain direction. So when you go to the gym, you are disciplining your body because you want to have less of a kegger and more of a six-pack. Right? Yeah, whatever it may be. Okay? So there's that sense of things. There is a sense in which Proverbs speaks about the husband and wife relationship. And I shared briefly about that last week and how, sometimes when you read through Proverbs, it talks about this complaining and quarrelsome wife, and we can fall into the trap of believing that, all wives are complaining and quarrelsome. They're not. It is a warning, look out, husband, look out, son, who seems to desire to be a husband. Don't find yourself in a situation where you're allowing your wife to continue to be quarrelsome. And that doesn't mean that you shut her up. It means that you rectify the situation. Because no one wants to live in a desert or on the corner of an attic all by themselves. Okay, a few of you do. All right, I take it back. A few of you do, but it's not the ideal. Okay? And that, the husband needs to recognize that his wife is a gift from God, that she is a treasure to be lifted up. And there's just some good wisdom in that overall. There's wisdom about work that's found in the Proverbs, about the difference between being a hard worker and being lazy is pretty strong in there. And it's really difficult to navigate that because sometimes our hardworking mentality can lead us to become workaholics. But that's not what the Proverbs writer is talking about. He's talking about the value of hard work and the sense in which each of us should engage in hard work. Because if you read Proverbs 31, which is kind of like the one that we always assign to the ladies, but only men can work, except for in Proverbs 31, because when you read Proverbs 31, she's got a lot of business that she's engaged in. She's working pretty hard on a variety of different things. There's another aspect. There's two more aspects I want to lift up out of the Proverbs. One I'm going to address next week, and what the Proverbs writer has to say about money is what I'm going to address next week. Because there is quite a bit in the Proverbs about money, about obtaining wealth and lending money and what to do with your money. There's quite a bit of that in the Proverbs. We're going to tackle that next week, and that's where we'll wrap up our teaching on Proverbs. But this week I want to address one last section that I want to lift up, and that is the sense of friendship. The Proverbs writer, the collection of Proverbs helps us get a glimpse of friendship on a couple of different levels. And it helps us to see that, friendship is a good thing. It really is a good thing. But I'll be honest, friendship is something I struggle with. Any of you struggle with friendship? I won't have you raise your hand because that may be a little bit too revealing. But I struggle with friendships. And I think one of the reasons why I struggle with friendships is that friendships, they're kind of like family relationships. And that for many of us, our first friends are our siblings. How many of you have a sibling? A brother or a sister? Okay? And you spent many hours playing with that brother or sister, arguing with that brother and sister, reconciling the relationship with that brother and sister, right? Yeah. So my brother and I, we spent many hours playing together as a kid, but then as we grew older, we spent many hours fighting with each other. And we spent many hours not making the relationship right. We actually, made the relationship worse. To the point that, knives were involved and, heads into refrigerator, and things like that. So, it wasn't a good thing. It really just wasn't. And I look back and I think about how, those first friendships that you have in your family of origin oftentimes shape how you make friends with others. And, I think about it from the standpoint of parents and friends. And this is a difficult area. Should parents be friends with their kids? Maybe when they're adults, right? Yeah. But at the same time, parents model friendships for their kids. And I grew up in a household where my parents didn't have friends. They had coworkers and acquaintances, but they didn't have friends. They didn't go out and entertain or any of those sort of things with friends. And so when my parents decided to do that about 15 years ago, I looked at Christy and I said, what happened to my parents? They're making friends. It was just very different for me. Very, very different for me. And I don't know if any of you have family issues like that, okay? But I do. And so when I read the Proverbs talking about friendships, I struggle sometimes to fully understand and appreciate what the Proverbs writer is talking about. Now, I get Proverbs chapter 1 in verse 11, where there's the so-called friends. So let's look there real quick. Proverbs 1, verse 11. These are the friends that we're told that we really shouldn't have. I get this type because I understand that and I desire it as a parent to pass it along to my kids. My child, if sinners entice you, turn your back on them. They may say, come and join us. Let's hide and kill someone just for fun. Let's ambush the innocent. Let's swallow them alive like the grave. Let's swallow them whole like those who go down to the pit of death. Think of the great things we'll get. We'll fill our houses with all the stuff we take. Come, throw your lot in with us, and we'll share the loot. That's an enticement for a friendship that is, the negative friendship. We all recognize that's the bad friendship. It's the one that your parents are warning you about. It's the one that your teachers are warning you about. It's the one that the school principal is warning you. Don't hang out with those people. All that kind of idea there. They're troublemakers. You should stay away from them. But there is something about hanging out with troublemakers that we all get drawn into at different times. And then when it comes time to pay for the trouble that we've committed, the friendships quickly fail, don't they? Maybe you were in a group of friends and you caused some trouble, and then you had to go see the teacher or the principal or the parent or whomever, and the next thing you know, everybody's turning on the other one. And that friendship that was so tight and so significant of a bond is broken. And everyone is at odds with each other, and you never speak to one another again. Are you with me? We know those kind of relationships are bad. And it's easy for us to point and say, hey, don't do that. I mean, I work with teenagers a lot. And so, it's kind of one of the things that parents expect me to say is make sure you tell them to hang out with the good kids, not the bad kids. All those different aspects of things. But there is a dynamic in which we talk about the bad, but we don't know how to nurture the good. We talk about avoiding and abstaining and looking out for, but we struggle to understand how is it that we get good friendships? How is it that we grow in those relationships? And we know we need good friends, but I struggle with where do I find them and what does it really look like and how do I really live in that? I don't know if any of you struggle that way, but my guess is that a few of you do. And I don't even have to guess because some of you are nodding your head right along with me, all right? So let's look here. I want you to flip over to Proverbs chapter 18. And we're going to look here in the 18th chapter, and we're going to look at a couple of different verses that are in here. And there are about 5 or 6 verses in this chapter, 5 or 6 sayings that are related to friendship. We're just going to walk through a few of these. The first one is verse 1. Chapter 18, verse 1. Unfriendly people care only about themselves. They lash out at common sense. Now, we could spend a lot of time about lashing out at common sense and those sort of things, but I just want to focus on that first word, unfriendly. Unfriendly. See, here's the thing. One of the reasons why many of us struggle in friendships is because we really aren't friendly. We are really more just concerned with our own interests. That's what the unfriendly person is described as, one who is concerned about their own interests. You see, a friend is someone who's concerned about the other's interests. If you are the type of person who makes it all about you, and everything has to turn back to you, then you're going to struggle with friendships because people are going to find a hard time relating to you and connecting with you because it is all about you. Let's talk about you. No, wait. Pause for just a second. When do we get to be concerned about what is going on in my world? Have you ever picked up the phone or sent a text message or shot off an instant message where you're talking to somebody that you think is a friend and you need their advice and you want some insight from them and you're just telling them, hey, my world is coming apart, and then the next thing you know, they start telling you how their world is worse and how their world is falling apart and then it moves quickly from how their world is falling apart to how good things are for them, all right? It's amazing how quickly sometimes it can shift, all right? But it's has very little to do with what they're saying as much as it is who they're talking about. And they're talking about themselves. And we begin to realize that the person who spends a lot of time discussing their own interests and discussing their own ideas and discussing their own things is honestly not a friendly person. They are a selfish person. And then we struggle with what to do with them after that. Because we've all got that selfish person in our circle, and we're like, I am so fed up with them. I don't know what to do with them. I mean, I'd like for them to be my friend, but they really aren't friends with me. So let's just be honest and speak out what it is. They are unfriendly, which makes it hard to be their friend. But pause for just a second before we start doing the old pointing our finger at other people. You guys know that, you know this, right? Your mama taught you this. When you point at someone, you have 3 fingers pointing back at you. Before we go running around pointing our fingers saying someone else is unfriendly, maybe we need to examine ourselves and ask, okay, how friendly am I? When I am engaging in conversation with people, do I really listen to what they're talking about? Or am I just listening for the moment where they take a breath so I can talk about what I want to talk about? Am I empathizing with what they're going through? Or am I just in that situation of, okay, hurry up. Oh, I'm so sorry for you. Lord bless you. move on. Do we find ourselves honestly being friendly? Or are we really more concerned with our own interests than those of our peers, who sometimes we call friends? You know, the hard thing about when you have a friend who is pretty selfish is that you don't know what to do with them, but then there's the side of what do I do with myself, and how does that work in there? But sometimes when friends get together, it's easy to talk about other friends, especially that unfriendly one, right? You know, there's 3 people who are in the friend group, and 2 of them, start talking about the third one, who is the selfish-centered one, but then there's the side in which, you get together and you start talking about other people, and you actually find yourself falling into this trap that the Bible sometimes calls gossip or rumors, and you start, diving deeper into that. Well, here's one for you to think about. Proverbs 18:8. This one doesn't have exactly the word friendship in it, but I want to touch this one for just a few moments and talk about why it's so dangerous for friendships. Proverbs 18:8 says, rumors are a dainty morsel that sink deep into one's heart. Now, every time I read that phrase, dainty morsel, I think of 2 things. First is I think of a perfectly cut and perfectly cooked piece of steak. Are you with me? Right? The kind that when you put it on your tongue, you don't really have to chew it because it just begins to melt and all the flavors just explode on your mouth and the juices just fill up. Anybody hungry? All right. Okay. All right. But I mean, I love and then when I get to the place where it's ready to be swallowed and it just goes down. It's so good. All right. I mean, I mean, like dainty morsels. Sometimes I think of steak, and it's just like not just dry steak. You can't do a dry steak. Not steak that's covered in A1 or Heinz 57, because if you have to cover your steak in sauce, that means somebody cooked it wrong. All right. Somebody needed to amen a little bit louder on that one. All right. Okay. The steak is not meant to have ketchup on it. You can do that on your meatloaf. All right, but don't do that on your steak. But that dainty morsel, so steak is like a dainty morsel to me, but you know what else is like that to me? Dark chocolate. All right? Like a piece of dark chocolate that just, when you put it in your mouth, it explodes. All this, I mean, you can smell it while you're chewing it. You know what I'm talking about? It's just like, whoa! And it's like, oh, this tastes so good. All right, that dainty morsel that goes down deep into one's heart is what a rumor is. I want you to think about that, because when a rumor is circulating, we hear it out there. Maybe a friend shares it. We know that it's gossip or rumor. We know we should shut it off, but it's like, tell me more. Right? I know I should not engage in it, but it's like, oh man, that is just so good. Give me more, please, more. Right? And there's this longing in us that just like, I've got to have it. And then it sits with us. Like, because when you've had a really good piece of steak, you can remember that piece of steak. When you've had really good chocolate, you can remember that good piece of chocolate. I mean, like, I remember the first time I ever had steak that I thought, my goodness, I didn't know steak could be cooked like this. And you're going to be surprised, because I was surprised. It was at Outback Steakhouse. But this was like 20 years ago, all right? I've gone back a couple of times and tried to order the same steak, and it has not been cooked the same way ever again. And I'm disappointed every time that I go back. But rumors sink deep down into one's heart. And whether you believe the rumor to be true or not, it's still there. And it causes doubt to arise. It brings up questions and concerns and fears and anxieties. Because, I mean, like, let's just be honest. A rumor about good thing we don't hold on to. It's not as dainty. It's not as succulent. It's the bad stuff that we hold on to. I mean, after all, how do you think National Enquirer is still in business? Because whether you buy it or not, you read it while you're in line. At least the headlines. Go ahead. Confession's good for the soul. How many of you are reading the headlines? All right, yeah, right? And you're reading the headline and you're like, I don't care about those people. No way. Could that really be true? Right? The next time you see that star in the movie, you're just like, hey, you know what I heard? Right? It just got down deep. And you don't even know why you remember it. But it's there. I mean, how many rumors about politicians and actors and movie stars have you seen on the headlines walking through the grocery line, and it's just rumor, but yet you're just like, yeah, oh man, I don't know anything about it. But it's there. See, when we allow rumors to circulate in our friendship, they actually erode the quality of the friendship. And when we listen to rumors about our friends that aren't true, it erodes the friendship. And so one of the things that we should really work hard on is to say, okay, what's your source for this information? Is this factual? And we should check with the person who's telling us, but we should also check with the one that we've heard that it's about. You know, hey, there's a rumor circulating about you that you're pregnant, Jennifer. Jennifer, are you pregnant? Okay, all right, so that's good. All right, okay, so that's not, Stephen, yeah, you were involved, okay? Okay, all right, you know, so, I mean, here's the thing, is, you know, sometimes, you know, we got to cut it off, and we've got to draw the line and say, you know what, I'm not going to put up with rumors, because rumors actually feed into my own interests and my own desires. So that's why verse 1 is so significant. You know, the unfriendly person is concerned about their own interests. And so the unfriendly person feeds into rumors and enjoys rumors. And honestly, here's the thing with rumors. They never stay simple. They become more elaborate each time it is shared. Each time that it is spoken, it becomes more and more elaborate. And so, you know, those rumors really get to us, all right? I want you to look down at verse 19 of chapter 18. An offended friend is harder to win back than a fortified city. Arguments separate friends like a gate locked with bars. Well, you know, rumors have a way of offending a friend, as do many other things. And, you know, sometimes we do foolish things that offend a friend, but the rumor is the one that, it's like, you believe that about me? I mean, like, really, you accept that is truth about me? I thought we knew each other. And it digs in and it separates that friendship. And at some point or another, I'm sure you've had a friendship go bad. My, best friend from 7th grade, 6th or 7th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, somewhere in there. He and I, we didn't separate in our friendship because of a rumor. We separated in a friendship because we had a fight. I don't know if you've ever had a fight with a friend. But we had a fight, because I think what it really boiled down to is that we were trying to impress a girl. I'm not 100% sure about that, but that's generally what boys do in 6th and 7th grade. And so we were gathered before school, kind of outside the school building, and we were waiting to get in. And somehow or another, we are kind of doing our bravado man thing, okay? And we end up locking arms, not in a good way. All right, we're not going to hug. We're like in a wrestling embrace kind of thing, and I've got my hands on his shoulders. He's got his hands on my shoulders, and we're just like staring each other down. Who's going to give up first? All right, who's going to quit? Who's going to? All right, and it's getting intense. Right? I mean, like, the testosterone is flowing, and the bad mojo is going back and forth between us. I mean, it's like boom, 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 right there. All right, and I'm thinking, man, I got to show that I am superior in this contest, and I wasn't. Okay, all right, and I could feel it at that moment because his muscles were like squeezing tight, and I'm holding onto his shoulders, so I feel those deltoids like, and I'm just like, I'm gonna lose this. I don't know what we're doing, but I'm gonna lose this, and so forget it. I'm gonna win this. And so I offended my friend greatly. Because as we're standing locked like this, I raise my foot like this. And I offended my male friend greatly, as I didn't lift slowly, but with great force, I let him have it. He let go. He dropped to his knees, and we were no longer friends. I mean, we were like guys who like listened to the same music. I mean, we were like totally into Guns N' Roses and Poison and Europe and all the metal hair bands back then. I mean, we had the jean jackets with matching patches on it that you ironed on or you sewed on. Now, some of you who are children of the 80s, you know what I'm talking about. Those of you who are children of the 90s and 2000s, you're like, what is this that he speaks of, right? We didn't wear guy liner, but we probably would have if we'd been older. And, you know, if we could have grown our hair out, we would have. If we could have teased it up and figured out how to use the Aquanet, we would have done that because we were totally into it. I mean, we're singing Def Leppard and Poison and Guns N' Roses on our cassette tapes all the time. Yeah, what? What is this cassette tape you speak of? All right? Who are these bands? All right? Just listen to the oldies radio stations. You'll hear them now. Okay? But here's the thing. It's like we had been the tightest, and then I offended him. Really bad. I assaulted him, embarrassed him in front of our peer group. And so when the Proverbs writer says here, an offended friend is harder to win back than a fortified city. Yeah. We never restored our friendship. I mean, we became like casual with each other. There was no longer like death, stares across the classroom, but we were never friends again. There are a lot of things that we can do to separate friendships. And what we have to understand is that when we have offended our friend, we've got a lot of work to do to restore that friendship. And it's not easy work, it is hard work. That's why it's this idea of a fortified city. Back in the day when the proverb writer was writing, a fortified city was as tough as you could get. Separated like friends, arguments separate friends like a gate locked with bars. Friendship is delicate. It really is a delicate dance, and understanding how is it that you can draw in this. Because you will have people who are self-centered, and oftentimes we're more self-centered than we realized. There are all sorts of traps floating around that we can get sucked into, like rumor mill. There are things like offenses that we didn't even know that we did, and some that we knew very well what we did the moment that we did it. And then there are those false friends that we have around us that we struggle with. But those false friends help us identify the real friends. Verse 24, there are friends who destroy each other, but a real friend sticks closer than a brother. See, this is why I think friendship, that one of the reasons, the ways that we understand friendship is that we wrestle with it in our early childhood days. Our first friends are usually our siblings. See, like when I was not a Christian, I didn't understand friendship. I didn't have good, healthy relationships. As I came to know Christ, I didn't really know what it meant to be a friend. I had people who were being friends to me, but I didn't know what it meant to be a friend. And so I was probably, verse 1, unfriendly, self-centered. Not realizing it. And then I grow in my Christian formation, and it was because of a close friend that I came to know Christ. But he was more of a friend for me than I was for him. Still true today. The friendship drew me to Christ. And in my journey with Christ, I've struggled with what it means to, have a friend in Jesus. I know what it means to have a Savior and a leader, but I'm not always sure I know what it means to have a friend. And then I stepped into this part of my spiritual formation of being a pastor, and it's really tough for pastors to have friends. And I don't mean this as a pity party. I mean this is just honesty. Those of you who have been pastors, you know what it is. Those of you who have been married to pastors, you understand this. Those of you who have been kids of pastors, you understand this. And the reason that it's difficult is like the people that you're principally in relationship with are the people that you're leading. And one of the things that is a bad psychology piece of being a leader is a sense of invulnerability. And let me just tell you, it's not just the leader who thinks he has to be invulnerable. It's the people who are following the leader who feed that sense of invulnerability. And invulnerability makes it really hard to be a friend. Because friendships are built by vulnerability. And that's where, this idea of sticking closer than a brother matters. Because you don't need the friend to stick closer than a brother when things are good. You need the friend to stick closer than a brother when your world is falling apart and you need help. You need the one who sticks closer than a brother who is going to be there when you're making bad choices and they have to step in front of you and say, you don't got it all together after all, right? I mean, I remember, Christy and I had this conversation with my best friend from high school one time, and this was probably 10, 12 years ago. Caitlin was still little. Andrew, I'm not even sure was around. And he called me out. He said, you have always got to be right. And I was just like, you're wrong. Some of you finally are getting that one, all right? Let it sink in. But that was him sticking up for it. Because what it was, we were like, Christy and I were on the verge of an argument at that moment, I think. Okay, not on the verge. We were in. But we were still newly married. We don't argue anymore. Maybe just yesterday. Okay. Maybe we haven't argued today. Honey, have we argued today? I don't think we've argued. We got a clean slate today. We're good today. All right, thank you. She got up early and left to come worship practice, and I came in with the kids, and I think we might have said, good morning, hello, all right, see you later. And so it's easy not to argue under those circumstances. Here's what I want you to understand, though, is that friendship is very difficult. And so when we come over, and I want you to flip a few pages to Proverbs chapter 27. And I want you to look at verse 17. As iron sharpens iron, so a friend sharpens a friend. And here's the key thing that I want us to understand. Friendships are really important because they shape us. And so learning how to be a good friend is something that I think we all can put a little work in. I know I got a lot of work to do on that. But the reason that the friendship matters is because friendships shape us, and the people that you surround yourself with are the people that you will become. The people that you surround yourself with, those are the people that you will become. So choose wisely. So that way you are shapened and sharpened to not only be a friend for that group, but also a friend for the next group. Friendship is really tough for us to understand. We get enemies. We understand what it is to make enemies. We understand what it is to have enemies. But I really want to challenge us to really think through what it would take to be a better friend. And the Proverbs writer doesn't tell us that. He just tells us the value of friendship. So there's a lot of work that you and I have to wrestle through. But a couple of things that we can infer is that friends care about one another, not just themselves. Friends protect one another. Friends sacrifice for the other. And friends change the other. Who's in your friendship circle today? How are you changing them? My hope is that you're able to see the positive change that you're directing your friends in. I know for me, in the 12 years that we lived in Odessa, Texas, as we pastored 2 different congregations there, I was fortunate to have a group of friends that really we just became the Tuesday lunch bunch. Just about every Tuesday we met for pizza. And I will tell you they kept me alive. I will tell you they kept me sane. I will tell you that they protected my butt from a lot of stupid decisions that I would have made. I will tell you that I miss them greatly. Because we don't get to spend Tuesdays together anymore. And one of the challenges of living in the Metroplex is that there are so many things that we can all do and so many places that we can all be that it actually fights against our friendships. Because friendships require time and proximity. If you can't invest time in the relationship with a friend, it won't grow. But if you can't see each other, you can't sharpen each other. Because we can all put up the fake front with our fake friends on Facebook. Well, I don't need to say it again. You got it, right? It's a dainty morsel went all the way down, right? You know, we can all put up a fake front with our fake friends on Facebook. And we can all glamorize our lives and glow about our friends that are instantly there and instantly gone on Instascam. You're welcome, aren't you? You're welcome, all right? I don't have one for Twitter because nobody's using it anymore, all right? And for those of you who are snapping away, be careful, because not everybody there is interested in you as much as they're interested in themselves and how you make them feel when you snap back. Because one of the things that's true about social media is that we get an endorphin high when someone likes us, hearts us, stars us, retweets us, shares us, or whatever. And so it actually causes us to be less genuine because of that. So just be mindful of how you're nurturing your friendships. Be mindful of how you're sharpening each other, how you're changing each other. And our friendships matter. But the most important friendship that we can have, and again, I told you I struggle with this, is a friendship with God. And I struggle with it because I want to follow God. But Jesus said to his disciples, I call you my friends because that's what you are. Let's pray. Lord, help us in friendship, God. We really struggle some days with the people that you put around us to see and interact with. And we struggle with those friendships, so it's really hard for us sometimes with you when we have a hard time seeing you. It's not that you're invisible, it's just that often